hello. Good morning, 13th jurors. Hello. Thank you for reporting to jury duty. You can all say hello to Brother Brewmeister, who is here with us today, JT. A lot of you are used to only seeing him kind of portal in occasionally, but he is thankfully with us this morning. Good morning, JT.
Good morning. I am not a vampire, contrary to popular belief, but I am here. It's so strange to see you all in the daylight, but here we are. And I'm very excited to be here. So I'm glad everybody's here too.
Yes, definitely. This is a huge day for us. I am so excited. Today, our 13th juror family is welcoming one half of the power couple, Mighty Heidi and Marc the Shark. He was a prosecutor for almost 13 years, working for state attorney's office, and now he spends his time dedicated to helping people like Travis Rudolph, who we just spent a lot of time watching that trial and yelling at that trial. And now we have a lot of time yelling at that trial, muted microphones and throwing things across the room, and my poor dog looking at me like I was a psychopath. So we are so excited to have him here today with us, Mr. Marc Shiner. Hi.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited. We have all been talking, and there's been conversations in our chat here about it, conversations on Night Court, Twitter, emails, everything. Everybody's very excited to have you here with us today. So we appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you for having me and inviting me. It's my pleasure to do this.
Of course. So I want to jump right into it because we have so many questions. So many questions. My first question that I have to get out because it blows my mind. Do you think that the prosecutors actually believed what they were presenting?
That's $1 million question. That's a great question. I can only answer when I was a prosecutor. I would never, ever prosecute a case that I didn't wholeheartedly believe in. I used to drop cases that I thought people were probably guilty, but I wasn't sure. I never got any cases reversed on appeal. I never had the wrong guy in jail. Knock wood to this day. I don't know how anybody could look themselves in the mirror being a public servant and prosecuting a case you don't believe in. That's probably a better question to ask them if they'll ever talk to you. I don't know. It's shocking that they would go forward, but I can't speak for another human being. What's in their mind? Like, why they go forward? Yeah.
Based on my Twitter, I doubt that any of them will ever want to speak to me, but we could try. I'd love to hear what they have to say. One of the things that I know has come up a lot is, if this was basically an attempt to, get their names out there, get a big win. This is a former NFL player and, a high profile case. Do you think that this would have gone to trial if it had not been for him being more high profile?
I would hope not. I hope everybody gets treated the same. But you got to ask that question. I mean, why is this case going to trial when they had every opportunity to do the right thing? And they didn't do the right thing. They went to trial. I think it starts with the lead cop. Like I said, she's the captain of the ship, and she clearly arrested him without very much information. She could have waited. She could have pended the investigation and did a couple of days of work. It's not like he was going to go anywhere or was a danger to the community. He's never been arrested in his life, had a stellar record, but she rushed to judgment, and the prosecutors rubber stamped it, and nobody wanted to ask any questions ever. No one cared. They really didn't. That was the most disheartening thing about this. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Well, just as a quick follow-up, do you think that came from do you think it came from them just not really putting in the work, or they just thought that they had such a slam dunk that they didn't think they had to do it?
I don't know. There was at least 6 prosecutors at different times involved in that I know of, maybe even more. So I can't imagine they really believe he was guilty charged.
Yeah.
That's the real question. Why would you go forward on such weak evidence when you knew that I'm going to come out swinging and Heidi's going to come out swinging and we're going to expose the truth? Maybe they just didn't know how to evaluate their case properly. Because unfortunately, prosecutors are used to winning. That's just the nature of the court system. They win, they get guilties on the majority of their cases. And that's really unfortunate because there are a lot of people wrongfully convicted. Cases get reversed on appeal. But that wasn't going to happen on our watch. If we're going down swinging, because I truly believe that they were wrong. And to me, it was not a hard case. It was just hard dealing with the characters involved. And the sensationalism. The prosecutors actually acted different because the TV cameras in there, and that's wrong too. You don't start screaming and jumping up and down because there's TV cameras in there and trying to get some publicity. I ignored the audience. I ignored the cameras. I'm focused on the trial and the jury, and I'm just being myself. So I noticed that that's a problem whenever cases are televised. People wear better clothes. They talk differently. They act differently. I don't know why, but that's what people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of our favorite lead detective, when one of the things in your cross-examination of her, first of all, your cross-examination of her was, I told you this, like my three favorite crosses of this whole trial, or three favorite moments in the arguments, but my three favorite crosses were your cross of Vanderlyn, your cross of Tyler, and Heidi's cross of Dominique. I thought that all three of those were like just fantastic. I went back and watched all of those again afterwards, just because they were incredible. But during your cross of Vanderlyn, when she said, there were a few things that really stood out to me. First of all, we know that Tyler lied about having a gun. And I noticed that when you were talking to her about it, she said that the statements that they made were not necessarily lies. When you called her out on knowing that they, had already lied to police, like how is that possible? Like, what was the reasoning behind her thinking that they lied about guns, but it wasn't necessarily lies?
It was crazy. It was not even believable. Instead of just admitting that she may have made some mistakes and she's human and she's a new detective, she's fighting me tooth and nail on every single issue. She just lost credibility, in my opinion, from the jump. As soon as she gets on the witness stand, it's like, who's going to believe this lady? She's not keeping it real. She's just making up stories and talking. I meant it in closing argument. I didn't use any notes. Everything I spoke was from my heart. I think this lady was just doing double and triple talk, and she's not going to fool 12 intelligent people. Jurors are smart, and they picked up on it.
Yeah.
You picked up on it. You picked up on it very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, she infuriated me. There's the one clip that somebody did where you and I were both yelling at her the same thing at the same time, or yelling the same thing at the same time, when she was talking about how she doesn't look for evidence if she doesn't know that it exists. And you and I both at the same time were like, that's because you have to look for it. Like her lack of investigation. And, when she said something about how she thought that when you asked her in cross-examination about them parking a block and a half away, and if she thought that was normal if they weren't going there to fight. And she's like, yeah, that, makes sense, because they said that they weren't going there to fight, but just in case, they were going to park. And I was like, just in case, wouldn't you want to have your car closer? So just the way that she excused everything that they did was so frustrating for all of us to watch. I don't know how you were able to keep your composure as she's saying all of this when you're in the courtroom.
Well, I think it's loud and clear that she was basically the police officer who was their advocate and was on their side from the get-go, and just wanted to do everything to get a conviction. And it showed how unfair she was. And it's so scary. Thank God that y'all are there and you got to see this, because these 12 jurors will never be the same.
Yeah.
Most people come in there trusting the police. I'm not saying you should not trust the police. There's plenty of good cops out there, and I have friends that are cops and plenty of good ones. But there's plenty of bad ones. And I always say, if a plumber comes in your house and messes up on your pipes and you get a leak and you have to spend a few $100 extra, well, you'll fix it. But if a cop comes in there and charges you with a serious crime, you may never fix it, and they can ruin your life. So I just think it was so obvious that this lady did not care. And what's scary is I could be the victim tomorrow. Something can happen to someone in my family, and she can come investigate and get it all wrong, which is really, really scary. Or she can rearrest somebody tomorrow on another case and be wrong again. And just these kind of mistakes are not forgivable, because you really can't go back and give someone back 2 years of their life and have a label on them, even though he's found not guilty. He's now forever going to be known as a guy who killed somebody and got off of it. And some people will give him the benefit of the doubt, some won't, but he'll never be the same. Ever. And he's the victim. His family's the victim. And she got it wrong. And I think everyone knows that. And that's sad. It's just very sad that happens. I mean, if she did a good investigation and did her job, made a mistake, so what? We live with it. She did her best. And if that's her best, then that's scary, because it's not possible that could be somebody's best.
Yeah. As far as the police go, I feel like one of the things that was frustrating all of us too was that I think that the Rudolphs, not talking to the police without an attorney, and then them not ever, attempting to try to talk to them again afterwards. It's like, they're using their Fifth Amendment. Like it feels like everything was used against them, like that was used as evidence against them of guilt, when it shouldn't, it shouldn't have had that kind of effect, and it shouldn't have been used against them. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we don't do a good enough education in our society for people, kids in school, in high school, and college. The average person does not know the police are allowed to lie to you. They don't know the police are allowed to record you or not record you. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is one of the biggest agencies in this country, and they don't have body cams. They're just starting to get them. The West Palm Police had them, but the Sheriff's does not. And they get away with so many things because nobody can really see what they're doing, and it's their word versus the civilian's word. So that's a problem. And to answer your question directly, I mean, things need to change. I mean, we really need to have better police training. A couple of months in an academy is not going to teach you how to properly investigate a case. And then we all know people, and I don't know about this detective, but we all know in society, connections get people to better spots. And that's not what should happen with a police agency who investigates murders, drug trafficking, rapes, human trafficking. You really need somebody who's professional, who is cold and neutral, who walks into an investigation without their mind made up and lets jurors see everything. And that's just so sad, because it's prevalent that it doesn't happen. Year after year after year after year, I see cases where people actually could be guilty in some other cases, but the police did such bad work, the jury will never know, ever. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Is there any evidence that was not able to be permitted that you really wish the jury would have been able to see?
No, not really. I mean, there's a lot more to this case, like the guy named Hack. Unfortunately, I just got his name right before the trial was supposed to start in February, and a couple of days before the trial, they give me a thumb drive with millions of documents in there from my client's phone and Tyler Robinson's phone. I could still be looking at it today for the next year if I really wanted to. I didn't have enough time to go through it, but I found things like Hack, and maybe that's why they were hiding the ball for so long. She had his password and said it was a miscommunication. It's silly. Everything in this case was a fight to get. It was difficult to really get the truth, at least in my own mind. And then I'm still getting it right before the eve of trial, and they got to continue the case in February because they're piling on more documents, millions of documents, 2 days before trial. So then it gets continued until May. And I find out about this guy named Hack, who I know his real name, and ran a criminal background check, and he does have a criminal background. And there's other videos we have showing possibly another person walking around the crime scene that the police never found. I just couldn't tell who it was, so I didn't bring it out. There's many other things. There's a car driving away on Jasmine, the block where this incident happened. Drives away after this happens. My investigator's phenomenal. Ralph Marston's great. He found doorbell cams, ring cams that the police never bothered checking.
Wow.
I don't have an obligation to turn them over unless I'm going to use them, and I didn't really know how to use them because it would have brought up more questions about why they didn't do this. And I thought, the jury had enough to figure out that my client's not guilty. But there's definitely more to this story.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
One of the things too that I noticed was there were different turning points during the trial for people. When you and I spoke, I told you that there were some people who came into this that had only heard what had been, said in the media, that, they were fleeing, they were leaving, and all of the shots were from behind. And, so there were, based on what was put out there were people going into this, believing guilty. There were a few major turning points where I think people were changing their mind. Is there one major turning point for you where you felt like the jury was starting to see what the truth was?
I think opening statements at the scene where Ms. Perlet and I were 100% honest to the best of our ability with this jury. In jury selection, the state was hiding the ball and trying to make this very simplistic. Throughout the jury selection, they were talking, which you all didn't see because it took 4 days, but they're talking about in a boxing match, you have a referee, and once the bell rings, you got to stop fighting. And if there's a flag is on trial, you don't unfold the flag. All you do is look at it and tell it's a flag. And they were trying to make everything very simple, and that's not real life. And I think this jury was extremely bright. And I said from the beginning, every juror on this case is somebody we wanted. It was the best jury selection we've ever had. All 12 and the 2 alternates were great. I would take them on any case because they were all bright, they were all honest, and that's all we want. I mean, if you're doing the right thing, you just want the jury to follow the law, and you don't have to twist anything, you don't have to lie, and that's the way we practice, and we've always practiced that way. I never get up there and say something I don't believe, ever. But turning point, I think it turned right from jury selection that they believed us and they knew we were honest people. And I'm not the best public speaker. I may not be the best lawyer, but I speak from the heart. And Miss Perlet, Heidi, my wife, my boss, it's Perlet and Shiner. she also just speaks straight up to people. A lot more eloquent than I do, and she's a much better speaker, but she talks from the heart also. And I think people understand that and realize that. And that's why we've been successful for all these years, because we don't lie to people. We don't twist things. We don't spin things. We just want people to think about the truth and think about the evidence and let them decide. So no, I don't think there was a turning point. I think the whole trial, we didn't lose trust with this jury, and they trusted us and believed that we were guiding them the right way and let them make a decision based on this evidence. And I don't think there was really a choice. If you follow the law, it was a not guilty from the get-go here.
Yeah. The opening statements, she did a fantastic job on that. And that was one of the moments when people were like, oh, okay, there's a lot more that we don't know. So that was one of the main turning points for some people which was very early on, of course. That was one of the things that opened up a lot of people. And then the bullets, showing that it was, from right to left, your cross-examination of them and having them, making sure you were very tedious about making sure that they were clear about, where for the autopsy, like where, entry wounds right to left and all of that. That was also a big turning point for, I think, a lot of our people, because it was the first time that I think a lot of people realized, like, oh, we've, been told something totally different than what the reality is.
Yeah, Travis had thousands and thousands of supporters from the high school he went to the college, but most people just stood on the sidelines because they didn't really understand what happened. And I don't blame them. They just get the spin from the media and what the state attorney's office releases, and the probable cause affidavit, which is really a saleswoman's job to put in there the worst evidence. The probable cause affidavit is just what a cop writes. And unfortunately, that holds so much weight because that's all the media ever gets in the beginning. And that's what they count on as being the truth. And sometimes it's nothing close to the truth. It's spun so much just to show somebody's guilty as opposed to they're not guilty. So most people in this case, even though there was thousands of supporters, they all were on the sidelines. And as the case was going on, I didn't know this until after, but my assistants were getting phone calls from prosecutors, police chiefs, police officers all over the country saying what a travesty this is. I'm getting texts and emails, which I didn't look at until after the case was over, saying that this case never should have been brought, and people coming out of the woodworks from his prior schools and people that knew him wanting to testify, which we couldn't use, but we appreciate all that support. And I don't blame people for sitting on the sidelines because they don't really know the truth. That's why your show is so important. It's amazing. I didn't know y'all were out there. It's amazing that you guys are doing this. And whether you agree with me or disagree, but at least people can make up their minds for themselves. And that's why I became a lawyer. I just want the truth to come out. No matter what side I'm on, the truth is the truth. And y'all got to do that, and I appreciate that, and that's why I'm here and supporting you. And I appreciate you doing this because it's God's work. People need to know what goes on in the court system. They need to know because so much crap goes on that no one has any clue of the truth. And you can't read the paper. The paper tells you nothing about what happened. They're at a different trial. They could be sitting through a trial for 8 hours, and then I read the article. Like, what case is this? This is not what I just did all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't exist. The media, unfortunately, do not put the truth out there. They just say, well, so-and-so testified, they were cross-examined, closing arguments came, and now we're waiting for the verdict. That doesn't tell you anything. So the public doesn't know. And I applaud you for doing this. You're putting it out there, and you just want people to know the truth. Whatever side the coin lands on, who cares? As long as people know. Because it's sad that I've been doing this for 34 years. And I've walked so many people out of that courthouse, and so has Heidi, on murder cases, on robberies, on drug trafficking, rape cases. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. All you do is hear about the sensational cases or people who are falsely convicted 30 years later. It's too late now. Now the guy just lost 30 years of his life that the Innocent Project just freed somebody. Then it's too late. So we need more people like you to show what's going on in our communities because it's really so important. So thank you. I applaud you for doing it.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot to us. And that is something that, having a microscope on some of the stuff that they're doing, I hope makes a difference. One of the things that we have, that our chat was, including myself, was furious over were the remarks that the prosecutors made about domestic violence. And you and I talked a little bit about this when we spoke, but Francine using Travis's words against him, saying, okay, so you're saying you admit that you deserved to be hit. And then with, we call him comb over. I can't remember it.
Ricky Clausey.
Yes, thank you. His comments that her hitting him and punching him was a natural reaction to being called a name. That was something that triggered a lot of people in chat because, anybody who's ever been in any kind of domestic violence situation, that was really hard to hear. Do you think that having that being said on a public stage could prevent people who are in that situation from, trying to get help or call police or do something? If are they putting out the message that they're okay with that?
Yeah, it was shameful. That they should be ashamed of themselves for bringing that up. They represent the people of the state of Florida, not just the person who died.
Right.
They represent everyone, and sending a message. And I really even told Travis during breaks. I said I didn't realize what a bad man you were. I said I knew you were, but I didn't realize to what extent. Until now, the prosecutors are bringing it out. And I said, you didn't deserve to get hit.
Yeah.
I said, no one deserves to get hit. And for them trying to sanction it by saying you deserved it is horrendous, because there's
Yeah.
so many victims of domestic violence, men and women, mostly women, but there's plenty of men.
Mhm.
And that's not something that should be condoned by anyone, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense lawyer, but especially if you represent the people of the state that you're supposedly representing. And these guys are all wearing badges. I don't know if you saw that.
Mhm.
Every one of these prosecutors, which I found very offensive, because not everybody is law enforcement. Most people in the population that they represent are civilians like you and me. So what are they wearing a badge for? I mean, and now you're saying it's okay to hit somebody because you made them angry? There's
Yeah.
never an excuse to hit another human being. I have 3 grown children and 2 daughters, and I've raised them to understand that it's a clear message that no one has a right to lay a finger on you. And my son,
Yeah.
no one has a right to. So yeah, I agree with you. That infuriated me as well. That was just one of the sub issues in this case, to show you that they got everything wrong in this case, pretty much. And it was very sad that they're sending a message that could instill fear in people and calling the state attorney's office or the police that they're victims of domestic violence because these guys think it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a hard one for all of us. So I want to talk about some of the witnesses for a minute, because
Oh boy.
Indeed.
You're making me relive this nightmare. That's okay.
This was probably, we do on our show, every other Sunday we do a top WTF moments, and our show from where we got this trial in had so many, because there were so many moments where we're watching thinking, is this real life? Like, is this really happening? What's if you could pick like your top 1 or 2 moments that you thought like this has to be, candid camera, like this isn't real life. What do you think stood out the most from the witnesses?
The detective, the lead detective. Well, that's her label. I don't respect that label, because I know plenty of good detectives out there who I totally respect. But this lady basically, like you mentioned, said, I don't go looking for evidence and wasting taxpayers' money unless I know it's there. That's the exact opposite of what a detective is supposed to do. A detective is supposed to detect things and look for things and not trust anyone and go in there with a jaded mind thinking that people are going to be deceitful. The complete opposite, or the antithesis of who she is. That's number one. I don't look for evidence unless I know it's there. You'll never solve anything unless somebody comes and confesses. But even if they confess, she doesn't charge them. And if they're on her team, she gave free rides to everybody in this case, except Travis. So that was absurd. It was also, absurd saying that there's no database.
Everybody knows there's a database.
I like guns. I have a concealed weapons permit. They put the serial number down. They put my name down. They put my number down from my concealed weapons permit, which, by the way, you don't need in July 1st in Florida. You won't need a concealed weapons permit. But that's a whole nother story. But anyway, there's a database that people look for guns. It's also a federal offense to sell a gun the same day you buy it. They sold it in this case for $1. It's called the Straw Man Act. I've represented people in federal court for doing this. That was ignored. So that was a WTF moment. Yeah. And probably the biggest one is her not taking pictures, claiming that you need a warrant to take somebody's
photo warrant. Yes.
There's no such thing. It doesn't. It may exist. It may exist if someone's saying, hypothetically, they were raped and the man has a tattoo on his butt who did it. Then maybe the judge will give you a photo warrant to take a picture of his butt to see if that's true. Mm-hmm. But to take a picture of a witness, there's body cams. You saw them. You don't need a warrant to talk to people. The crime scene people said they would have took pictures if they were asked. You don't need a photo warrant. That's baloney. That's WTF moment over and over and over in this case. Who needs a warrant to take a picture of somebody? They had. How come they didn't show the dash cam? They had Travis in the car for a long time, and all the pictures. They said they were recording him. They didn't show that to the jury. They didn't want to show his injuries. And why did you come in with his phone with a little thing of an injury you can't even see? I said, why don't you blow that up?
Yeah.
There was so many moments in this case that didn't make any sense.
That was the thing that got me, was that I think I heard right that they never took photos of Travis or DJ when he was. Did they not do it when he was booked, taken down
Of course they did. Yeah.
They did. Okay.
And the jail actually takes photos of injuries so
Yeah.
they don't get sued. And they had those too. I just didn't bring that out because, I can't remember. I actually had about 3 or 4 hours of more cross-examination. And I saw the jurors' eyes were getting glazed over. I actually watched the jurors many times while I was cross-examining the witnesses. And I turned my head to watch them, and I saw their reactions. They had enough. There was no reason to beat a dead horse. But yeah, those pictures are taken at the jail, and they're taken of every injury so they don't get sued. And every cop takes pictures of people to show they have injuries or no injuries in an alleged fight. It's like, this was exactly what you don't do in a case. I was flabbergasted. I think I even said to her, "Are you for real?
Yeah.
This is really your answer?"
Yeah.
I even said BS. I've never used that word in the trial.
BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
I used it a lot in this trial, but I wasn't.
BS and Barney Fife.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the Barney Fife reference. Oh my gosh, I busted out laughing when you said that, and my loud, like, I saw clips of people posting that on Twitter too, and I was like, oh my gosh, my loud obnoxious laugh. That was one of my favorite moments when you called it Barney Fife. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
But then I felt bad because Barney Fife's a nice guy, and I don't think she's a nice woman. I desecrated his memory. It was wrong. I shouldn't have done that.
Oh my gosh.
He got it right at least 1 out of 10 times, right?
Barney everyone knew who he was. He was a nice guy, but
he was.
I don't know. I felt a little bad desecrating his memory, but I couldn't think of any current shows where there's a cop that's a bumbling, So that was the only thing that came to my mind was Barney.
One of the other questions we had a lot was about the hidden witness. We didn't get to see or hear anything from the witness. They cut the audio that day. And, we had heard that it was the first person on the scene. But what can you tell us about that witness?
Yeah, y'all missed a lot because this guy was one of the best witnesses. He's an undercover police officer right now. So the camera had to be shut off. There were screens in the audience, so they couldn't see him. I couldn't see him either. He came in with a full mask, a ski mask. He had sunglasses and a hat, but you didn't need to see him. Sometimes you can just tell by somebody's voice that they're credible. And it was just, he was an amazing witness because he was so animated. And the jury could see him, but they couldn't see his face either. Obviously, they just saw the full ski mask, the sunglasses, the hat. But boy, he was the first responder, and he was so hyped up. He said, "I passed the car. I'm looking for it." He was a road patrol officer at the time. He was going north, and the car was southbound. He made a U-turn, and he knows the city. He could not find this car. And he said there was tons of other cops going by the area. Nobody could find it. And then he makes a U-turn, and he passes by it. And then he said, "I passed by it, and I realized there was 2 silhouettes by the fence behind the car, or in front of the car rather, silhouettes by the fence area. And I backed up and I pulled in the driveway." And he's testifying like I'm doing. He said, "I jumped out of the car, said, 'You guys need help?' And that's when they finally said they need help." He said, I didn't understand it. I couldn't believe it. He said, "If it was me, I'd be jumping down. Hey. This is the way he testified. He said, "These 2 guys didn't say a word until I pulled in and said, 'Do you need police assistance?' And that's when they said, 'My friend got shot.' And they weren't not flagging him down like they testified to." To me, that was a key moment, showing their credibility. They're hiding by the fence, doing something there. We can only speculate, and knowing that they may have thrown a gun or who knows what, multiple guns. And this guy was so animated. Then he runs out of the car, and he said, "I really tried to save him." And there was a body cam. His body cam was shown. "I really tried to save him, and I felt the pulse, but then it was my finger beating." So he really tried to save this guy's life. He's a really, really good cop, and really cared, saving someone's life he didn't know. And was so animated about his testimony, and even wrote in the report, total honesty about how he found it so ironic that these guys weren't jumping up and down, and how he didn't even know they were there, just glimpsed in the corner of his eye. That's a fair cop. That's a really good person who's telling the true story, not trying to make the case or break the case or sway it one way or another. That was his testimony. He was very, very important from from the jump and the get-go of this case that the lead detective knew or should have known from the first officer there that these guys are acting bizarre and were by the fenced area and waited till that happened to call the police. Why? That should tip you off. A blind person can see that, unfortunately, but she couldn't.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we there was a lot of speculation about who it was, and then we had heard that there was a lot of protection going into it, because originally there were rumors going around that it was Sebastian's mom, and then within I think the next day, then they were saying that they thought it was an undercover officer. So apparently we did miss a lot on that one.
You did, yep. That they actually, in the middle of trial, talking about Sebastian's mom, they added a witness named Dominique Jean-Jacques. It was Sebastian's sister, and it's actually in the court file. They listed her in the middle of trial. She was in the courtroom the whole time, and she became a new witness that they never called, but they were going to call her because I spoke to her. Once somebody lists a witness, the other side has a chance to talk to her. So I'm like, what are you listing witnesses in the middle of trial? And the lady's sitting in the courtroom the whole time. She was going to testify that the reason his fingers were in the position like this, like holding a gun when he passed away, was because that's the way he holds his cell phone. And
his cell phone was in the bag in the back of the trunk.
She didn't know that, according to the sister named Dominique. I told her that, and the mother was like, "Well, I don't believe you. We'll find out." And I didn't want to engage them. I was just asking her what happened and why you're a witness. The prosecutors never told them where the phone was. Apparently, she didn't know. But she's also good friends with all these guys. They come visit her in New York. All the people involved in this case. So her testimony was definitely going to be slanted. And then I guess they realized, why would we call her? I don't think they realized the phone was in the bag either, the prosecutors, because they really did list her saying that he was holding a cell phone.
Yeah.
But that never happened.
Gotcha.
That tells me they were just reaching at that point.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Tyler said that he's studying law, which I thought was fun. That's interesting. So what advice would you have for Tyler studying law? Maybe to not perjure himself would be number one, but what advice would you have for Tyler who's studying law?
I wish him all the best. I hope he becomes a productive member of society, and he needs to learn how to follow the law first before he studies the law, or maybe he should study the law first before he puts guns in his pocket and wants to be a big man. But either way, I mean, we can only hope that he's not a future client of mine. Not that I would represent him, but we can only hope that he's a productive member of society. I got a feeling the way he talks and the way, you can't even put two words together. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he's slow as molasses. Some people thought he was on something. I don't have any idea what he's doing, but he's not a nice human being, and he's not an honest guy. And he really should be sitting on trial for murder. So he better study law or get himself a good lawyer, because if a new state attorney comes in, they may relook at this case because there's no statute of limitations for murder. And I really wholeheartedly believe this cast of characters should be sitting at a defense table.
I agree. Yeah. And who is your favorite lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Heidi Perlet, number one, the best lawyer in America. She really is. Not just saying it because she's my wife. She's been doing this for 30 years and pulling out victories and for clients that deserve it, and getting great plea agreements on unbelievably difficult cases that are too difficult to go to trial. She's phenomenal. She's my hero. She's the person I would hire if, God forbid, something happened to me.
Yeah, she's awesome. We loved her too. Mighty Heidi. Let's see what other questions we had. I've been asking all my questions because I've been like, these are all the things that I wanted to know. Let's see. We had a lot of questions. There are so many people wanting me to ask you about the judge, and about him rushing things and all of that.
Yeah, I can't talk about the judge because the Florida bar rules do not allow me to say anything about a judge. I'll tell you a positive thing about the judge. He knows Florida evidence probably better than any judge I've ever seen. He knows the rules, and I'm pretty good at the rules of evidence and hearsay and the objections. But he knows better. He knows more than I do, and I give him credit where credit's due. He's very, very smart when it comes to the evidence code, which is very complicated. I can tell you, vast majority of judges and lawyers don't really understand it. So kudos to him for being great at that. But anything else? You know what? My client had a fair trial. There's no sour grapes here. Win, lose, or draw. He never would have had a better trial, in my opinion. So I don't really have anything else to say about the judge other than he had a fair trial.
We had a lot of people asking if Travis could or would take or pursue legal actions against the state or against his attackers and Dominique.
I don't sue anybody. I've never sued anyone in my life. I don't like being in the court system other than for my work and getting the truth out. So that's not really something for me to say, but I think Travis should certainly look at any opportunities to recoup some of his losses. Money will never give him back what he lost and the reputation he lost. You can't really sue the individuals because they have no money. So you'll get a piece of paper, a judgment worth a piece of paper worth nothing. So you spend all this money trying to sue them and you're going to get nothing because they don't have anything and probably won't have anything the way they operate in the future. So that's probably not viable. Suing the state, they generally have immunity, sovereign immunity. So prosecutors and the police have in Florida what's called immunity, unless you can prove they did something intentional or they violated your civil rights. Then you can take them to federal court. So certainly I would advise Travis to talk to lawyers who know about civil rights violations and check to see if they owe him anything in terms of violating his rights. Because if they did, they deserve to pay the price.
Gotcha. We had a question, could the state attorney general take a closer look at this case and how everything was handled and what charges did and didn't come about?
Don't think they really have the power to do that. Every county in Florida has their own state attorney that's an elected official. In this county, Dave Arenberg is the elected official, and his office put a statement out after the trial. They don't agree with the jury verdict, which I didn't think was appropriate. They shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, they still said their hearts went out to the victims in this case and their families. And that's really disrespecting the jury's verdict because they meant the person who died. And in this case, the victims, it's proven in a court of law, was my client and his family and everyone else in their family. They're the true victims. So I don't think anyone's going to ever take a closer look at this, but there's an election in Palm Beach County in a couple of years for a new state attorney. And maybe the next elected official, if somehow voters complain that this case wasn't properly looked at and the wrong people have never been the right people have never been prosecuted, maybe something good will come out of it. But that's not for me to decide. I'm not a prosecutor anymore, and my opinions don't really matter. Yours does, and your viewers do, and the people of Palm Beach County do. So that's why I love the fact that you guys have this forum and people can see this and they can write to their elected officials. They can call them, and if they're not satisfied with how they're being treated, do something about it.
Yeah. Another question we had is, what are your thoughts on the DVR footage from the cameras? Do you think that it was tampered with, or do you think that it was just like faulty recording?
If I was to guess, I think it was faulty recording. I can't imagine somebody would put their career on the line and perjure themselves as a police officer. I would hope that wouldn't happen. I'd hope and pray that wouldn't happen. Because I was really looking forward to getting that footage, because my client told me from day one when I visited him at the jail what happened. He was spot on everything. I spoke to DJ. He was spot on. The mom, too emotional. I couldn't talk to her for many, many months. It took a long time to really talk to her. It was very difficult. But I was hoping that that DVR was there, because I believe Travis and his brother what happened. And I believe Mr. Este saw everything for the most part until he went and got his gun. He missed probably 20, 30% of it, whatever, because it happened so fast. He missed a good percentage. I don't have access to the DVR. I mean, the police still have it. I'm going to file a motion in the next few days to get it back. And then, I'll send it to an expert if someone's willing to spend the money. The problem is things cost money to someone to review it. But even then, what am I going to do? Then argue that here's the real tape, the case is over. But you're asking me the question, do I believe it was not there? Yeah, if I had to bet on it, I'd say it's probably not there. The mom made a mistake. She's not a tech person, and she probably didn't know what she was doing, unfortunately. And at least there was the Ring camera, but it didn't show enough. I don't know why it cut off. It works on motion, and I couldn't figure out why there's only a little bit of portion, the portion of it. But I received what allegedly Detective Vanderlyn received, and I hope she sent me everything Ring gave her. Originally, the city cameras, she only gave a portion of them, and she cut it off, and she admitted that in deposition and trying to get the full story here. So I had to fight to get everything because she edited things, and that I've never seen before. But she didn't have any part of the cameras, I don't believe. So I don't think she had a chance to edit those or do anything. So I think Detective Farron testified, and he's been doing this a long time, and I've never questioned his truthfulness. So I do think the cameras probably didn't record, if I had to guess.
One question that I had too is on the 911 call, when they're talking, it's hard to understand, but I swear it sounds like they're asking something. I can't remember what it was. It's within like the first 30 seconds. And it sounds like one of them is saying, throw it, like in the background. And and I'm thinking like maybe they're talking about throwing guns, like if police are on the way, because now they're on the phone 911. Did you hear that, or am I hearing things, or was there any mention of that with anybody?
Brandi, now that we're friends, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you call me?
It's like the first 30 seconds. And if you slow it down, like, because I pulled up the 911 call on YouTube, and I always try to listen to 911 calls slowed down because you can pick up on a lot of things. And I listened to it, and it sounds like he's saying, throw it. It was right after, I think they're questioning him about saying something about is he hurt or something. And so whoever's on the phone is saying, I can't tell. And whoever's in the back, you can hear him saying, it sounds like he's saying, throw it. So, and I was like, I bet they're talking about the guns. I didn't know if anybody.
Wow. I'm going to go back and listen to that. Man, I wish I would have picked up on that. Never picked up on that. Chris Lowe was in the background. It was his phone, allegedly. No one checked his phone, so we don't know. But more importantly, it took me 9 months to get that tape. There's cases that happen within hours. The 911 tapes all over the news. This lady, maybe it was on there and she didn't want me to hear it. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I think I swear that's what they're saying. And I listened to it because I listened to it about 3 or 4 times thinking anytime I hear something and I get excited, I'm like, oh, I'm probably imagining it. And then I went back and listened a couple times, and it sounds like he's saying, throw it. So there's
ways to get that enhanced. If y'all should have called me, I would have done that.
I was gonna say, I wish she would have told me, because I would have brought that audio in and enhanced some of it for her, so we could make sure that that's what was said.
Wow,
Brandi, next time.
Come on now. I miss things.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Never mind.
No, that's great. I mean, hey, 2 heads are better than one. 10,000 heads are better than one. That's why it's great y'all get to see this, because you'll pick up things that I missed and other lawyers will miss, and what prosecutors miss. So that's the beauty of this. It's great you get to see this.
Yeah. Do you know what? First of all, we all loved the Rudolphs. Like all 3 of them, when they got up there, were just as kind and respectful as they could be. And our chat loved us some DJ. He was so sweet. Do you know what it was that he wanted to say to the judge at the end when the judge told him he's not able to say anything to him?
Yeah, he wanted to talk more about the case and his feelings about it. And I said, you can't do that. You can only answer questions. As you can tell later on social media, DJ has a lot to say. DJ has held in for 2 years. He's been busting at the seams to talk. He wants people to know his brother saved his life. He really is an animal person. He loves animals. He is a farmer. All that's true.
Yeah.
But he has this other side that he's a rapper. And I knew it. I just didn't bring it out because I didn't want any of the jurors to think it was possibly controversial or they didn't like how he rapped. It had nothing to do with the case. But this man has been busting at the seams to talk. And this guy talks from the heart. He's like me.
Yeah.
You know, he just wants people to know. I mean, I don't rap like that. I wish I could, but he just wants people to know what really happened. And I even said to him, I said a couple months ago, I said, DJ, you have a rap song about this? He goes, don't worry, I got one. And I never heard it until he said it on that show. But
yeah,
he really has a heart of gold. Any guy who takes care of his mom like that, who sacrifices his life and his career, and he has a little semblance of the farm with the pop. I saw him, the potbelly pig. He's got chickens. He has fresh eggs. He has a dog back there. He's got bearded dragons that the mom thought was an alligator. Just little lizards. He's got everything.
We saw his. He's got a video where he took his goat Legacy to the basketball court, which was hilarious. It was so cute, and Legacy was was a fan favorite too. The goat named Legacy. Actually, one of our viewers sent me a goat pillow in honor of DJ and his goat that we fell in love with. So that's
Heidi's favorite animal, by the way. She wants one day to have a little farm and get some goats. So it's interesting.
Oh, sounds like you got a connection now.
Yeah, right? Got to hook up on some goats now. So
yep.
Another one of the Rudolphs that we all fell in love with was the mom. Now, I know that you said she was, of course, very emotional, and she originally did not want to testify, right?
She couldn't. Every time I would talk to her, she would bust down in tears and cry, and I was so devastated by what happened. And then as time went on, she started realizing, and I sat down with her. We were working every weekend when we got back from vacation in April. After that, it was all hands on deck, working nonstop, and also working for 2 years before this. But I had mom come in here right where I'm sitting. She was actually sitting in this chair, and I got a little rough with her, and I don't like doing that. But I said, Mom, you gotta listen. And I called her Mom. Your son's looking at life in prison. You'll never hug him again. You'll never kiss him. He'll never fulfill his dreams. He'll never get married. You won't have any grandchildren from him. I said, this is real serious. I said, you gotta try your best. I know it's devastating. I mean, I don't know. I just can imagine having your husband taken from you.
Yeah.
In the twilight of their lives, and they raised a really good family, and these are the kind of people you want as neighbors. But I kind of yelled at her a little bit and said, we only have one chance to do this. Only one shot. You have to tell the truth. Yeah. And then she starts thinking. A few days later, she says, Mark, I'm ready. I didn't believe her. I didn't think she had it in her because she was so emotionally distraught. And this was a miracle. This was a miracle from God that she was able to do it. And I said, all you have to do is tell the truth. And I didn't go over her testimony with her. There was no reason to. I mean, I just needed her to go out there and say what happened. She watched the trial. She knew what was going on. In Florida, what they have is something called invoking the rule of sequestration. Normally in trials, one side or the other invokes the rule of sequestration. And what that means is anyone who's a potential witness cannot listen to the trial. No one did it in this case. Yeah. For whatever reason. I didn't have a reason to do it, and the prosecutors probably didn't. So she watched the testimony, and she was getting angry by hearing all these lies. And that pushed her even more. But before the trial even started, she was ready. And she could have easily came in there and said, I saw Tyler point guns at each one of my sons. And she didn't do that. I mean, this lady, in some ways, hurt us by saying she didn't see that happen. Yeah. Contrary to both of what her sons testified, that they had a gun pointed at them at different times. But I didn't care. I just wanted the mom to come in there and tell her truth so the jury can make her fair decision. Yeah. And she did. And one of the cardinal sins that the prosecutors did messed up on, in my opinion, was questioning her so vigorously.
Yes.
Didn't do anything wrong. This lady's a 100% victim. Yeah. A previous victim, a victim again. And you're pushing and pushing and pushing for what? Yeah. What are you trying to gain? All you're doing is angering the jury. by
Yeah.
pushing at her and making fun of her, basically saying she didn't call the police. She couldn't. She had no ability to do so. And they didn't
Yeah.
want to accept that or believe that. And that's kind of sad to victimize her again on the witness stand, just like you're victimizing domestic violence victims.
Yeah.
So a lot of sad things happened. There's a lot of stories within stories.
I'm glad that she was able to get up there. I think her testimony carried a lot of weight with everybody because she is so endearing and credible. And you don't get up there and look at her and think, oh, I bet she's lying. Like her testimony carried a lot of weight. So I think I'm glad that she was able to get up there and tell her story.
But there's another good issue about not calling the police and why she didn't call the police. Number one, these are not ignorant people. They're educated. They're smart. They do know people. Travis had an agent. A lot of his friends are professional football players, which you notice we didn't mention a single name to endear us with anybody because it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't really about, that's not what this trial is about. But anyway, the fact that they didn't call the police is multifaceted. Number one, they received advice from her son-in-law, who's an ex-FBI agent, said don't talk to the police. Number two, the way the police treated Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, they knew police are allowed to lie. And number four, they're African-American living in America. And I didn't want to bring race into it. It really had nothing to do with this case, but I'm not an African-American male. I had the privilege of growing up in a white society. I grew up in Brooklyn, so my friends were every race and every nationality. So to me, everyone's the same. But I know when I walk with my black friends or African-American friends in New York City, growing up as a teenager, people would lock their doors when we passed their cars and we treat them differently. And that's just a fact of life, unfortunately. It is what it is. And we can only hope that changes. I don't see it changing that much in the court system, unfortunately, but that's a story for another day. But they have a different frame of reference as well, not trusting police, and for good reason. And more importantly, in this case, arresting Travis without giving him a fair shot. I never would have talked to the police. I've trained my kids not to ever, and they're all college educated, but since they're a kid, Heidi and I have trained my children, unless you're a victim of a crime, if they're accusing you of something or you witness something in your family, don't talk to the police without an attorney. Don't trust the police because you don't know if it's a good cop, a bad cop, a lying cop, an honest cop. So why take a chance until your rights are totally protected? That lady would have probably arrested DJ. And I'll tell you something, the reason they went to look for that gun, they weren't looking for a gun, to be fair. They called Agent McMichael with the drug dog because Tyler gave him information, this didn't come out in the trial, that there was a guy with a white shirt chasing him, which DJ had the white shirt on, Travis had none. So they thought DJ had a gun.
Oh, so they weren't even looking for Tyler's gun. They were looking for stuff against DJ.
Gosh. Yes. Yep.
What?
Yep. They thought DJ had a gun because Tyler said DJ was chasing him and shooting at him and he didn't say DJ, he said the guy with the white shirt.
Wow.
So they were trying to get more evidence against DJ, and then when they found the gun and they looked it up and they realized it was bought by Keyshawn at a gun store, and now the gig is up. They go to Tyler's house the next day, and of course he's gonna have to say it's his, otherwise it's Keyshawn's, and he sold it to him. So that's how that all came about. It was not to go look to be fair and impartial. It was let's go get DJ and find out it's his gun, and it turned out it wasn't his.
Wow. Oh, wow. Something I thought was interesting too. They spent hours, they said several hours was I think what they said, searching inside the Rudolph home, but didn't spend any time looking where, like you were saying, like the bridges, the roadways, where they went, any of that on top of the buildings. They didn't spend any time on any of that, but they spent several hours searching inside of the Rudolph's home.
And missed the broken PlayStation and missed other things.
Yeah.
And not do anything to show that these guys may have done something surreptitiously when they were leaving. And that's a really something I'll never forget. It was one of the most corrupt things I've ever seen. Not attempting to discredit your own witnesses. Even that gun, like I said, they thought that was DJ's, and now it's too late. Now they found it. and she didn't hit the jackpot. She thought it was another gun, and it turned out it was one of the bad guys' guns. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, how sad is that? I mean, you put yourself in the decedent's family and Jean Jacques' family. They're sitting there watching this trial. They don't know what happened. I don't know what they're thinking, but they know Travis killed their son, so that must make them very angry in some ways. But when you really try to find out the truth, you can't get it. You'll never get it. So the case is really not solved. It's an unsolved case as of today because of the shoddy police work. And that said, I had a case years ago where a guy, probably 20 years ago, a guy was accused of killing a 16-year-old girl in Palm Beach County. And the police department had one witness who said my client was on a bicycle and had some type of submachine gun and shot the 16-year-old girl while he's on a bicycle. And they lost the tape of the person who made that statement. And then I bring the guy in for a deposition because in Florida, luckily, we're allowed to question witnesses in the courthouse before a trial with just the prosecutor and me and a court reporter. And that guy said, I never told the police your guy had a gun. And all I said was he drove by on a bicycle. And the girl got shot. I have no idea who shot her. And he was sitting in jail for 10 months in solitary confinement, looking at the death penalty. 10 months because he was in solitary confinement because too many people were out to kill him because he supposedly killed a 16-year-old girl. And people in jail sometimes will do retribution if you kill a kid. And then the case was dropped. I asked for a speedy trial. The prosecutor eventually dropped it. And then the police department, West Palm Police Department, goes on the news saying Marc Shiner is doing his Johnny Cochran tricks. And the point of the story is there's another unsolved homicide from 20 years ago. They have no idea who killed this young girl. What a tragedy. And this is what I see every day. And this is an unsolved case because we know other people are responsible for the death of Jean Jacques. I think everyone knows at this point. Anyone who cares to look will know that. So unsolved cases are horrible because there's no justice when you have an unsolved case.
Yeah. Why do you think that they didn't go after Dominique for I mean, not even just tampering with evidence, but for, initiating this whole thing? Why do you think that they just let her go on about her merry way?
Because if they charged her, she would have became a witness and would have invoked her right to remain silent and never would have testified for them. So they couldn't. Well, they could have, but they chose not to. They didn't do the right thing. When I was a prosecutor, I was trained, do the right thing. Whether it's hard, whether the public agrees or disagrees, you always do the right thing. And in this case, they didn't do the right thing. I don't know why. You'd have to ask them. To this day, it baffles me why these people weren't charged with anything. They should be charged with conspiracy to commit murder and murder. Yeah. Florida, we have felony murder. If one of your friends dies while you're committing a crime, you're responsible for his death.
Yeah.
And anyone involved as a principal, that's why I got that principle out in jury instruction. It's basically all for one and one for all. Good question. I don't know.
And then one of the questions that we've had too, and we talked about this some on stream, is testing for GSR on the hands. They even had, said that they, bagged hands and everything, but nobody was ever tested for GSR, right?
Yeah, and if you notice, I never asked that. You know why? GSR is not a valid test anymore. It's been thrown out for years already. Some places still do it, but it can react to other things like bleach and different things on people's hands. It's not a valid scientific test, so any good law enforcement agency will not use that anymore. I could have brought it out to confuse the jury, but I'm not like that. I'm a straight up guy, and no reason to bring something out that I know is not a valid test. DNA is valid, but in this case, they didn't want to test any. Why, I don't know. Millions and millions of dollars the sheriff gets, and this detective didn't want anything tested. Nothing, except my client's gun to make sure the bullets matched. That they did.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we all cracked up when you said DNA stands for do not ask. Don't ask anything. We all loved that. We thought that was hilarious. And I know you and I had talked about this, but one of the questions that we've had a lot is the civil suit from Sebastian's mom against the Rudolphs and Keyshawn's mom. When you and I talked about that, you said that he was Travis was never served on that, right?
He was never served. Yeah, I mean, I found out about it because it was in the court system, but he's never been served. Anybody can sue anybody, so maybe they'll serve him, maybe they won't, but it's kind of silly. I mean, it's really not anything that's any relevant to this case at all. And they want to sue him, good luck.
Yeah. We had a few people asking about the jurors requesting the different videos when they were doing deliberations. Do you have any theories as to why they requested those specific ones? I had said on that I noticed that they were picked out all the ones where the attackers were all lying. So my theory was maybe that they were trying to if it came down to where they were trying to choose which side was more reliable, pulling that stuff was showing all of the lies from the prosecution witnesses, as opposed to the other. That was my theory, but I'm not an attorney. What do you think was the reason behind them choosing those specific things?
I don't know. I really don't know. One of the things I mentioned in closing argument was that Keyshawn felt his right pocket before DJ Daryl Rudolph came out the door. Never brought it up during the trial. I waited to the end. Sometimes jurors like to find things for themselves. They may have seen things that I didn't see, just like you heard on the 911 tape. Someone may have said, throw this or throw it now or something like that. They may have heard something or saw something that they wanted to review, or you have 12 smart people who were totally engaged the whole trial, taking notes, paying attention. They probably were looking for something that, you and I don't really realize what they were looking for. But either way, hey, they're entitled to review whatever they want. So that it's hard to speculate. To answer your question, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we can start taking some questions from people. I think I've gotten most of my main questions out. I had so many, and I was so excited to ask you all these things and pick your brain about everything.
I've got a question. What else did I miss beside that tape? Because now I'm not perfect. This is a learning experience for all of us. Is there anything else you heard?
I don't know. Can we pull it and listen to that, JT? Because maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. It's because it's within the first. I can't remember which specific video it was, but there's videos of it on YouTube of the actual 911 call. But it's about the first 20 or maybe 20, 30 seconds in, something like that.
Wow.
Let me just make sure. You're talking about let me just check here. That's not going to help me out. Find another question while I'm doing this.
Okay.
Did you guys know what ShotSpotter was? Have you ever heard of that?
I had not heard of that. And when they were talking about it, we had a lot of people in chat that had not heard of that too.
Yeah, Palm Beach County has it all over in different areas. That's an interesting technology, and they can hear it if a gunshot goes off versus a firecracker. And it's not all over the county. It's in areas where the police think there could be a problem, like in Palm Beach, or where the billionaires live. It's not there, as far as I know, but it's throughout the county, and they can tell if there's gunshots erupting, and now the police will go right to that area.
Yeah.
It's on the telephone pole. You can't even. It's a little speaker. I've seen them. They're non-discreet. You can't even tell they're there. It's virtually impossible, but they work. It's a good system.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was a new one for me.
All right, tell me if you can hear this even without me showing the video here. Can you hear that?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, cool. All right, that answers my question. So thereby, I will do this. And then, there we go. Okay. Let me also...
I could be totally wrong too, but this is just what I heard.
I'm also going to boost the audio too. All right. Go back here. Okay.
We need ambulance. Where are you? We're on 40th Street, and I don't know. We're in North Lake, 40th Street, and Broadway. Broadway. Yeah, 40th Street, Broadway. What's going on? We have someone who shot. He has a DSW. He shot? He's not moving. Yes, he's not moving. All right, shot. Let me get the line. 1 moment. Please hurry. Yeah, I'm dropping it now. It's West Palm, 40th and Broadway. The male shot. He's not moving. Where he was shot? What part of his body? I'm not sure. I can't tell. But he's not moving.
Listen now.
Only one that's injured there? He's the only one that's shot. Yes, please. Okay. We have help on the way to you. We're sending police.
Did you hear that?
I'll rewind it.
Did you hear that? When he says, I'm not sure, you can hear in the background, he's going, throw it.
All right, hold on here. And I can also slow it down a little bit too. All right.
Paramedic. And you say you can't tell where on his body he was shot, right? I can't tell. All right, and he's laying in the road on the way or on 40th Street. 40th and Broadway, there's a gas station, abandoned auto park, something. 40th Street and Broadway. Okay, again, is he on 40th Street?
Did you hear it?
Broadway?
Yep, I hear it.
So I'm not crazy. So that's, well, I mean, maybe, but.
You available for my next trial? I need you guys.
Yes, I am.
I need both of you.
Yes.
Listen, we're here for you. If you need us, we are always here for you, for sure. No joke. I know it's primarily a joke, but that's one of the big ththings we believe in is justice for people who deserve it, and that includes people being found not guilty. So whatever we can do to help.
Yeah.
I totally missed that. Yeah. That was great.
And I'm sure hearing it, that one is harder. That one's harder here too, because we're hearing them play it in the courtroom. But there was a video that I found where it's like somehow they got the actual audio on there, and so it's a little bit more clear on that. And you have the actual audio, I'm sure too, but you can hear it a little bit better, like on that when you're not getting the courtroom background stuff too. But it's right after he says, I don't know. You can hear him in the background going, throw it. And I listened to it a few times, and I was like, I bet they're talking about the guns.
That's wild. That is wild. Yeah, that's super important. Another thing the police missed, beside me, the police and the prosecutor should have heard that as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Here's a question. Do you think that they moved the fight down the street because Mrs. Rudolph was telling them that they had property cameras?
Yeah, I mean, I think they cased out the place. They drove by it and they were looking at the cameras. And I think they moved the car because they saw there was cameras at the house across the street from where they initially parked. The person said the cameras weren't working. I went there with my investigator. Right after this happened, I spoke to Mr. Estes. I looked for cameras. And the people right across from where they parked had cameras, so they moved up, hoping it wouldn't catch them. These guys knew what they were doing. They definitely parked down the block because they knew there was cameras. They knew what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see what other questions we have. Oh, everything just moved.
Oh, we did have one from somebody. Oh, you go ahead, do Annie's, and then I can bring up one that I saw earlier.
Is there any question that is there anything Mark wants to say or any question that he wishes we'd ask? Anything that you want us to know?
I was exhausted.
I believe it.
I rested up all weekend long and kind of vegetated just so I can come back and get back to work and help the next person. But it was a very tiring trial. The judge pushed us very much, and the witnesses were exhausting. Normally in a trial, you'll have one or two witnesses that are really lying, and you go after. This case had multiple witnesses, so thank God Heidi helped me. It was really my case. Heidi was not hired. But thank God, she helped me out and eased the burden on me.
Yeah.
But it was a difficult case. Yeah, no, she did great. But it was a difficult case because we're kind of fighting everybody. And it's kind of apropos. I mean, 2-on-1, 3-on-1. It was 3-on-1 against me. And that's okay because the truth came out. It doesn't matter if they had 10 prosecutors there. and 100 cops. The truth is the truth. And if you're a zealot advocate, of course, nothing's perfect. We just do the best we can. And I'm just glad that the truth came out. I was confident going into this case that justice was going to be served. I had no doubt in my mind. I believe in the system, as corny as that may sound. I've never walked out of a courtroom saying, how did the jury do this? I mean, they don't always agree with me, but I've never walked out once on either side as a prosecutor or defense lawyer saying, what's going on? How did they reach this verdict? It always makes sense when you have good lawyering on both sides and you have a fair judge. The jurors do the right thing. Jurors try hard. The public cares. Once they're in the trial, they really care about what's going on. These jurors will never be the same. They probably went in there saying, police do a good work. They tell the truth. They fight hard and they're trained properly. They don't lie to people. These people will never be the same. They're never going to look at anything in the court system the same way. They're going to question everything. And that's great. That's what you all do. And that's what I do. That's how I was brought up. Don't believe authorities. They could be telling you the truth. They may not be telling you the truth. They may have an agenda. And then you'll find out. Just question everything. So that, to me, that's the most important thing. That's why I had no idea social media was so powerful. I tried the biggest case in Palm Beach County as a prosecutor, where a 13-year-old kid was accused of killing a school teacher. And it was one of the first school shootings. I was on the other side. And we had satellite trucks from all over the world. People saw me on every continent on that case. We had more emails, more phone calls. But in this case, all you needed was one camera there, and then everyone can share it.
Yeah.
And the word spreads like wildfire. I wish I would have known how powerful social media was, because I would have invited y'all 10, 15 years ago to come watch some of these trials, because this case is nothing different than other cases I've had over the years. This goes on every day. Yeah. So thank God you guys are there. Thank God you found me and I found you, because now there's a new outlet for the truth to be told. And I'm glad you're doing it. It's a great cause, because people need to know what's going on and who to trust. And we just hire these officials, and we hire these sheriffs. They're elected, and we think they're doing the right thing. And lo and behold, not always. I'm not always the bad guy. I'm just out there bringing the truth out. And people need to know that. Question what people tell you. Question what the prosecutors tell you. Question what the police say. Question what the news media says.
Yeah.
Blessed Mom from Texas said that she loves you and your wife, and you're loved by many, especially all of us here, of course. And her question was, do you think Travis and the family should move? That we kind of worry for them a little bit. But, I'm just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it's easy to pick up and go if you have the resources. His mom's not a wealthy woman at all. And right. Unfortunately, they have to stay there for now. So unfortunately, you can't always get what you want, as the Rolling Stones said. But you might just find what you need, and they got their son back. Hopefully, no one will be stupid enough to try to do something to him. They have a close-knit neighborhood. We know the neighbors. At least Mr. Estes is armed, and he's friends with the Rudolphs. And maybe the Rudolphs have their own training in weapons now. Mrs. Rudolph and the son. I mean, nobody knows. So I would hope nobody would try to do anything to them. These people were not part of anything. They're innocent people, innocent victims. I would hope the case is over and these people would move on with their life and wouldn't threaten the Rudolphs or me or Heidi. And if they do, hey, they're going to have to suffer the consequences. As long as Detective Handler doesn't investigate, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Lord knows that's true. One question too that came up a couple times is the reactions that we had were, and people make fun of me because I always tell them I can't fix my face. Like my reactions are very, I'm very expressive in my face when something happens. And I know that for me to have some of the major reactions I had, I know that some of the jurors and some of the people in the gallery had to be the same. Like, there were a couple times when we can only see so much, but there were a couple times when it seemed like people in the gallery were reacting to things. Like when it seemed like that when Tyler said he doesn't care what the jury thinks. Were there any of those moments that, from y'all being in there that you got to see that we missed out on?
The jurors were very stoic. They took this really, really serious. I did make eye contact. You know, as human beings, we make eye contact. Like, hey, I got you, brother, or I got your sister. Like, you look at someone, like, I feel your pain. And that happened multiple times throughout the trial during cross-examination. I'd look over at the jurors and I'd catch their eyes. And of course, we didn't communicate or say anything, but they knew these people were lying. They could just see it and they felt it. I almost started laughing, and I actually did. I had to catch myself. And none of the jurors were laughing that I noticed. When Daryl or DJ testified, when I asked them about the liquor bottle hitting his brother on the head, I was shocked. I brought back my kids' memories when they were in Chuck E. Cheese many, many years ago, 25 years ago, and all of a sudden he's talking about it's like a whack-a-mole. So like a whack-a-mole game from Chuck E. Cheese. I couldn't stop. I just laughed. It was funny.
Yeah.
But the jurors were stoic. They weren't laughing. I kind of think they understood. She was really bashing him in the head with this bottle.
Yeah.
But that was funny.
That was funny. We created an emoji for the whack-a-mole thing because we loved that so much. I think it speaks to his character and who he is. It's just, you know, like it was just a very natural description for him. I loved that.
In closing argument, I had some of the jurors laughing, especially when I said, probably not an appropriate comment, but I said he wasn't thinking with his head, with the right head.
Yeah.
They were laughing. Travis is guilty of picking the wrong woman.
Yeah.
That's about it. And that's unfortunately that's epidemic through the court system. Most people are there because of relationships with women or men or trying to get more money to impress the other sex. And that's almost every case is somehow related to money and impressing your wife or girlfriend or trying to pick somebody up. It's just bad relationships, and that's what fuels most of these cases. Even people selling drugs, they're trying to get more money to raise their family or impress their girlfriend, or it just everything seems to be related to relationships and money, one way or another.
Yeah.
But it's sad. I mean, Travis really picked the wrong girl and had no clue. I meant it when I said she was a hurricane. I mean, he had no idea what was about to hit him. No clue.
Yeah.
Thank God he was prepared. Thank God he was, because you never would have heard. I really meant it. You would have read a little obituary and no one would know what happened. And no one would have got charged, and they would have said, all right, next case.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming, everybody keeps asking this same question in different versions, but basically everybody wants to know like your upcoming trials, and are any of them going to be streamed? Are we going to be able to watch you again?
Well, I have no control of what's streamed or not. I didn't even realize this one was streaming. I had no idea until it happened, and then I'm hearing from my assistants all the funny comments you guys are making and names for people and things I'm thinking, but I don't say them. Heidi and I have a trial coming up in the middle of June. A very interesting case, but if you're interested, maybe I'll tell you next week. I want to see if the prosecutors are going to drop it, because it involves perjury, it involves bad police work, and it involves a police officer who's on trial for rape, actually. But I'm not going to tell you any more, because let's hope they do the right thing on this one. If not, we'll let the truth come out again and see what happens.
Yeah. Wrestler's mom wants to know, did the jury react when the witnesses, when Tyler said, I don't care what the jury thinks? Did they have any reaction to him making that comment?
Not outwardly. These people really had good poker faces. Like I said, they took this so serious. I don't know how you could sit there for 2 weeks and listen to this garbage and keep a poker face. They were great. I mean, if I watched the World Series of Poker on TV, these people were the World Series of Poker for jurors.
Yeah.
No reaction, but for me, when somebody says something like that, it means you do care what the jury thinks. You're trying to convince them you don't care, but you do. Just like when Dominique said, I'm smart like my brother. You don't have to say you're smart if you are smart. People will know that. You're just trying to prove that you're dumb, but you're conniving. And I think Chris Lowe may have said he didn't care what the jury thought too. I think 2 people said that, if I'm not mistaken. I've never heard that. In 34 years of doing this, I've never heard someone say they don't care what the jury thinks. And I never heard anyone applauding like Dominic did when the judge sustained an objection. She goes, "That's right," and things like that. And she's making her own objections and then said, "I'm not talking anymore."
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard anyone talk like this in a courtroom. And DJ, as a matter of fact, DJ would look at the jury, and none of this was rehearsed. I mean, I barely had to go over his testimony with him. DJ tells the jury, when it was really important, he'd look right at the jurors and say, "And jury, let me tell you this." I've never heard anyone say, "Hey, jury, let me tell you this." He can get away with that because he's a down-to-earth guy who's totally, in my opinion, telling the truth and believable. He actually addressed them by saying, "Jurors, jury, let me tell you this." It was beautiful.
That was something that we talked about kind of in night court when we kind of summarized everything that happened during the day, was that, in a former life, I'm a public speaking, communication theory professor. And so his choice, which I think was just an unconscious, it was just a choice that he made. He picked the perfect time to turn and make that contact with them. It was, I mean, there's no way I could have picked a better time myself. And I think that made a huge difference.
Right.
I mean, obviously everything else, but yeah.
It was natural. It wasn't forced. It wasn't like the detective looking at them every single answer. And I even said, "Well, did you learn that in detective school to learn how to look at the jurors like this, trying to convince them?" He did it naturally. I've never, in hundreds of trials I've been on, I've never seen anyone do it so smoothly and naturally. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another question, was there any drama after the verdict? Like anything in the courtroom or outside of the courtroom? I don't know if any of the attackers' families were there, or I'm pretty sure that the witnesses didn't want to be there anyway. So I don't think that they would just hang around and watch, unless I'm wrong. But was there any kind of drama after the verdict?
No, the only drama was outside the courthouse. Everybody erupted. Travis had tons of supporters, tons of people who worked in the courthouse that I won't talk about and who they were, but everyone was rooting for him at the courthouse. Everybody in the community that I heard. But there was such an eruption outside that a friend of mine was walking into the state attorney's office at the time this happened, and we came outside and he heard just an eruption. He didn't know what was going on of applause and people screaming for joy that Travis was let go of this and freed of the burdens of being accused of murder and attempted murder. It was all positivity. It was nothing negative at all.
Do you think that if they had gone to, I just saw it, here it is. Could Sebastian have survived if they had got to the hospital sooner? Do you know, based on the medical examiner and their testimony, if he possibly could have made it if he got there?
Good question. I don't know. I never asked that question. So I don't know the answer to it. But Chris Lowe said they called on the way there. And if that was true, they would have probably met the ambulance somewhere at a reasonable spot, and maybe every second counts. They were actually going to St. Mary's Hospital. No one talked to the police about the signs. There's multiple signs on the route they took. You can't miss them.
Yeah.
But that hospital is unbelievable in saving people. It's a trauma hospital, the best trauma hospital in Palm Beach County. And I can't tell you how many cases I've been involved with. They've saved people that should have died. By far, it's probably one of the best hospitals for saving people in these types of situations, car accidents, shooting cases. They do miraculous work. I know some of the doctors there, they're brilliant geniuses. And maybe they could have saved them. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
This one's really good. What was up with the cell phone guy and his attitude? He should be impartial. I also had no idea how he couldn't connect names with cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you all see what I'm up against. You saw when he testified, he was nice and calm with the prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
I whispered in Travis' ear, "Watch this. You're going to see some fire." When I took the guy's deposition, On Zoom, actually. It wasn't in person because I figured he was just going to tell me he plugged the phone in and he got the results. And that's it. It is what it is, because that's all it really is. You just plug it in and the computer does the work. Cellbrite. It's not complicated. However, when I took his deposition, he starts screaming at me because I asked him some questions about, did he look at what the results were? Could he tell me what was erased? Oh, no one asked me to check if anything was erased. And he started getting really angry and yelling and screaming on video.
Wow.
He looked unhinged. So in trial, I knew once I start questioning him, he's going to get unhinged again. I said, Travis, you're going to see some fireworks here. And sure enough, I wasn't even being mean to him. I was just asking him to tell us whose phone it was. And the guy went unhinged at that point and lost it. And then I was a little nasty to him because, I hate when people lie. That's why I became a lawyer. I hate when people take advantage of other people. That's why I do what I do. I like the truth if I can get it, or as much as possible. And when someone lies to me or someone's playing games, it kind of motivates me to out them, to show everybody they're lying. And this guy was doing that, playing games with me and playing games with the jury, more importantly, not telling him whose phone it was when he knew. So I was a little tough on him. And then I hit him with a shot below the belt that you don't even have a degree. You just graduated high school. And I didn't mean that to be mean. I did mean it to be mean to him, but I know plenty of people with a high school degree or no degree who are brilliant and have great careers, and it doesn't mean anything. But this guy was acting so all high and mighty that he's so important. He didn't have a high school. He has no degree in this field whatsoever. He's not an expert. He's a guy who plugs phones in, make him believe he's a genius. And I never would have started with him if he just would have been straight up and told us the answers instead of playing games. Once again, he's on that thin blue line, just sticking together.
Yeah. It was crazy how hostile all of these witnesses were. Like, just the amount of anger and disrespect, and some of the, I'll say this though, Dominique and Travis both took the cake. And you mentioned Dominique objecting to her own, like during her own stuff. When she called Heidi argumentative, she was like, argumentative. I was like, you can't do that. Like, you're not, that's not your role as a witness to.
Well, it is, because she does her own research and she's a Google lawyer. She's a Google lawyer, just like I try to become a Google doctor and get all the information wrong when I look something up. I need surgery. Next thing you know, I got a hangnail. It's absolutely nothing. This lady's a Google lawyer. She even said she thought she was going to get arrested. And that's why she was looking up self-defense, stand your ground, all these laws, looking up my net worth, trying to find the best prosecutor, looking for a pro bono lawyer because she knew she couldn't afford a lawyer. There's a lot more to this story that meets the eye. I mean, it was really like a soap opera here, and just unbelievable facts. I mean, who looks those things up? Those kind of things. If you're a witness or a victim, you're looking up all these terms to try to defend yourself. He was already arrested, Travis. She didn't need to know. And she was on social. Oh, get this. Here's a story y'all don't know. After she testified, she sat down in the front pew with the prosecutors, and we took a break. And she had the nerve, the prosecutors had the nerve, through her, asking to talk to Travis.
Really?
Yeah, she wanted to talk to him. This lady's been posting from day one. She wants him to get the death penalty. All kind of social media things about how he needs to die. And now she's there wanting to talk to him. And Heidi said, no chance. I'm not going to tell you her exact words, but she said no chance.
Wow.
She had the nerve. I don't know what she wanted to say, but there's nothing she can say to solve any of this or to apologize or to cast more blame. I couldn't believe it. That's what I call chutzpah. I don't know if you know what the word chutzpah means. It means the ultimate nerve.
Yeah.
You're going to ask. You're trying to put this guy and give him the death penalty, and you want to talk to him now and lie about him and set this up and try to kill him and put his family in harm's danger, and now he's on trial for murder, and you think he's going to ever talk to you again? It's almost like that interviewer's question. You're going to go back with this lady.
I said something about that one too. I was like, what kind of question is that? Like, that is not what any of us want to know. That's not what any of us think. Like, that was just, we weren't fans of that interview.
Yeah, not fans. That and the whole shirt off, trying to find something deeper question drove me nuts. I was like, this is not important. There's no, we
had 100 interview requests roughly from all over the country. And we only did that one because they broadcast the trial. And I thought maybe something good will come out of it. And Travis did one with the local news, a young reporter here in Palm Beach County who interviewed him. I actually let him be interviewed one-on-one with this reporter before the trial, which is unheard of, letting your client before they testify talk, because I trust this reporter and she's very fair and very open and honest. And I knew she would do a good job, and she did. And Travis gave an interview because there was all these other interviews out there saying he's guilty of murder, get the death penalty, and police had that police report out there. And, Travis has a career and people need a glimpse of the truth. Now, it wasn't for the jury because the jury didn't see any of that. It was for the public because he is somewhat of a public figure and he needs to get his reputation back. And he did one more interview with her that's airing tonight after the trial. But the interviews we really are not doing, and I'm not doing anymore other than your show. I have no plans for any others unless somebody writes a book or we write a book or Hollywood wants to do a movie and Travis can get compensated for the 2 years he lost. We're not really doing too many more interviews or anything else because the truth's already out, and that's what we're happy about.
Well, we appreciate you coming on with us. And we want to have Heidi too. We would love to have Heidi because we, like I said, we're big fans of y'all, and our chat has been calling y'all Mighty Heidi and Mark the Shark. So we would love to have her on as well when her schedule clears up some too.
Heidi, I did speak to her, and she does not, in 30 years, talk to the media. She's had many high-profile cases. She makes it a policy, but she would love to talk to you. She said she'll be available to do that maybe in a couple of weeks, and she's looking forward to that because this is an outlet that we've been looking for that I didn't know existed. And I'm so happy we found you, and Heidi's so happy because you guys are really not the media. You are sort of the media, and hopefully you never get so big that you slant things and y'all tell the truth because you have really educated people on this channel beside you guys. You have other people who are astute and really are law and crime junkies and want to get to the truth. And that's beautiful. And hopefully more people will see this and more people will get involved so they just don't find somebody guilty because they got arrested or read it in the paper or a prosecutor said they're guilty or the police come out and have a spokesperson or they write a police report because there's more to the story. There's usually a lot more to the story. And I'm not saying everyone's innocent. There's plenty of guilty people. I put plenty of people in prison for life. Some people are in death row in Florida when I was the prosecutor. And I took an oath, even though I'm against the death penalty, I took an oath to uphold the law, and I did. And I took an oath now to uphold the law, and I do. And I'm proud to say that the truth came out in this case, and it comes out in most cases. And I'm not going to stop until I retire. And Heidi's not going to stop either, because every life matters. It doesn't matter if you're a janitor. It doesn't matter if you're a politician or a billionaire. Everyone deserves justice and a fair trial. And I'm so happy you guys are out there spreading the word of what's true. Because even my own neighbors, a couple of them came up to me and said, "How'd you get this guy off?" I said, "Watch the trial. You'll see." I didn't get him off. The truth got him off.
Yeah. People
don't know. They don't realize what's happening in our court system. And as long as you have good advocates, the truth are going to come out. And that's unfortunate because a lot of people can't afford good advocates and can't afford investigators. Like I had Ralph Marston, who's phenomenal. And I use other investigators. A guy named Dave Gregg was also involved in this case. He was a former law enforcement officer. This is a team effort. I may have been the guy talking and Heidi was the woman talking, but this is not just us two. This was a group effort, and we appreciate everyone's help and we appreciate everyone's support. And even if people are against us, that's fine too. I'm used to it. It doesn't matter if you're for us or against us, as long as we can get the truth out there, because people in the community deserve the truth. And that's what I've been an advocate for 34 years, almost 35 years. The truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Russell's mom says, Mark, we love you and Heidi. You both are phenomenal attorneys. Thank you.
Wow.
Everybody was big. We're all big fans.
Until my next case, you may not be a fan. You may say you got the wrong. You're representing the wrong guy. Maybe
Well, I mean,
or maybe not. You may be a fan, and that's okay.
That's something I love about our channel and our community is that some folks have come to us and they're like, well, we just don't like defense attorneys, but we're able to kind of get them to understand that you all are doing a really important job, and you all are making sure that people get their constitutional rights to a trial and everything like that. And so I think folks have begun to understand with like our channel and other channels too out there that, you know, the job that you all do is so far from easy, but at the same time, you're making sure and holding everybody accountable that those defendants can get those rights that they are supposed to have.
And that's a beautiful thing. And there's good and bad in every profession. There's plenty of bad criminal defense lawyers, and I take cases over from them all the time. And there's plenty of bad prosecutors. There's plenty of bad cops, but there's plenty of good defense lawyers, plenty of good prosecutors, there's many good cops. But that's what people need to see for themselves. Not, you know, no one likes a defense lawyer until you need one.
Yeah.
But you know what? I could look in the mirror. My most important thing in life is when I pass, I want my kids to be proud of me. And it doesn't matter if I was a prosecutor putting people in jail or a defense lawyer or Heidi being a prosecutor. She is an ex-prosecutor or defending people. When I die, all I have is my name. And I want a few people that I've helped along the way saying, yep, that guy did his job. He was an honest guy. And I want my kids to remember me as being someone who zealously fought for no matter what side they're on to do the right thing. And that's all. That's all we can ask anyone. No one's perfect. Do the right thing. And in this case, so many people did the wrong thing, and I think y'all saw that. But this is not an anomaly. This happens every day. I can tell you the next 3 or 4 trials I have, you won't believe it on some of the things that are going to come out. And even if they're not telecasted and you want to talk about it, I'll do it with you guys. Because I have no control of what's being televised or not televised. But
Right.
I have 3 or 4 trials coming up with Heidi that we're doing together because they're all important cases, and we believe we have innocent clients, and just like Mr. Rudolph. And it happens so much. I just, you'll be shocked at what you're going to see. You'll be shocked.
Yeah. One question I have too, the next trial that I'm about to start covering is the rapper trial, and he's here in Florida as well. It's a capital murder case. This is the first one that I'm going to be doing since they've changed the law in Florida. I believe you're not. I've told people on stream before, I have trouble with death penalty cases. It's hard for me to. If I was a juror, I would not be one of those that would be able to, vote for death penalty. I can't see myself doing that. But this is the first one that we've had since the 8 and 4 law change. How does that law change affect you as a defense attorney? Like, does that? I can imagine the pressure already on you, defending some people. But if you take a capital murder case and now that, it's kind of like putting, everything, making death penalty so much easier. How does that affect y'all as defense attorneys?
Well, a few years back, it was just majority. So if 7 people voted for death, that recommendation would then go to the judge, and the judge can agree or disagree. So now 8 is actually better. But the Supreme Court a while back found Florida's scheme for giving the death penalty was unconstitutional, and it had to be a majority. Now it changed to 8 to 4. I'm not sure that's going to pass constitutional muster with the Supreme Court. That's yet to be decided. I agree with you. I'm against the death penalty personally as well. But when I was a prosecutor, I took an oath to uphold the law, and I used to always try to bring a second person in to help me and make them ask for the death penalty. It's just wrong. And most civilized societies don't have the death penalty, and it just costs a lot of money. When I was a prosecutor 25 years ago, a guy still on death row. There's a guy now from like 35, 40 years ago that the governor just signed a death warrant. These people aren't the same people 35, 40 years later. It's ridiculous. And we see mistakes being made, and we all hear about that in the paper. And I'm not saying all the time. Most people probably are guilty, but You never really know. 8-4 is worrisome. You know, why is Florida now trying to put more people to death than before? You know, what's going on here? It doesn't solve crimes. It doesn't deter crimes. People are still committing heinous crimes every day all over this country. You can't even open up the newspaper or watch the news without seeing the horrible things that are happening. So death penalty is not a deterrent, obviously, in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully, eventually, it's not a constitutional penalty anymore, and we don't have to worry about it. But as a defense lawyer, yeah, it's worrisome. But I got to be honest with you, since I'm a private attorney and not a public defender, most people cannot afford to hire private attorneys on murder cases, never mind a death penalty case, where you need a couple of lawyers. Because generally in a death penalty case, you have a second lawyer, different than the first one, because if your client's found guilty, you want a separate lawyer who's never spoken to ask to spare their life. Either way, they're dying, whether it's in prison, life in prison, Florida's no parole, or they get the death penalty. The question is when they're going to die. But it's very, very expensive to pursue. For the prosecutors who have unlimited tax funds, they don't care how much they spend. It's never a concern for prosecutors, like in this case, they don't care all the money they spent. They only cared that I spend $11,000 or $12,000 on Dr. Maricini, but they don't care. They'll spend an unlimited amount of our money, which is not fair. But it's virtually impossible to fund a death penalty case for most people with a private lawyer, even first-degree murder. Unfortunately, I have several, like 4 or 5 more murder cases, and most. I probably get called on 25 to 50% of the cases in this county alone. And I'm a reasonable attorney, or at least I think I am in fees, but most people cannot afford a lawyer. And that's sad. So death penalty, yeah, they're virtually going to get a public defender 90-something% of the time, unless they're extremely wealthy. And if they are wealthy, I don't know anybody who's a millionaire on death row. I don't think that exists. Another unfair. There's so many topics we can talk about, but people with money generally don't wind up on death row.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any other questions. We could take a couple more questions before you have to leave. And we definitely do. We're going to hold you to that because we want Heidi to come back too. So when her schedule clears up, we would love to have you both on here. So, but I know that there were still, I've tried to get everybody's questions, but there were so many. I had like 100 emails this weekend of all the questions that everybody wanted to ask. So I tried to, as I was sorting through them, I tried to get some of the ones that people, multiple people were asking, but let's see. And somebody had asked, do you know what's next for Travis, what his plans are, like what he's planning on doing next?
Yeah, Travis worked out the other day in an NFL facility with professionals. He's trying to get back into football. That's his passion and his love, and that's what he's doing full time. And that'll be his normalcy if he can get back to doing that. So I wish him the best. I hope and pray that he finds happiness and success in whatever he does, because he's one of the nicest human beings I've ever represented. He's just a gem of a fella and a super nice guy. Yeah.
And then we've had a couple questions asking if you have had a chance to speak to any of the jurors since the trial.
Well, we're not allowed to reach out to jurors as lawyers. I've had plenty murder cases where jurors waited outside the courthouse and called me. Happens all the time. I haven't heard from any of the jurors up until today. I took the last few days off just to recuperate. But no, I haven't heard from any. If they call, I'll certainly speak to them, but I'm not allowed to reach out to them.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions that y'all had? Sorry, I've tried to get as many as I can, but everything's moving and I'm listening, and so I know that I've missed a lot, and I'm sure I'll hear it from people that I forgot to ask their question. But is there anything else that you want to tell us, or anything that you wish we knew, or anything that we can do as with our little stream to try to help?
No, I think just getting the truth out there and letting people, and it's hard. People don't have time to watch full trials. I get it. but when they're streamed and you can watch them later on, I've had plenty of people call me and said, how do I watch this? I said, well, go this weekend and go to these live streams and you can see everything. Even neighbors who've asked me, what happened? I said, well, go look and you'll see the truth. You don't have to worry about anybody's spin on it. Because if you read the local paper or the local news, it's like, this wasn't the trial I was at. They sit there for 8 hours and they put stuff that happened just very bland. Well, this is the name of the person who testified. They were cross-examined, and tomorrow this is what's happening. That doesn't tell you anything. So yeah, I applaud you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Wish you all the success in the world, and thank you for having me. And if you ever want us to come back, or Heidi will definitely make a visit here, just say the word, and I will be more than glad to talk to you guys, because I love what you're doing, and thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much coming. Everybody give your waves, not that he can see it, but wave goodbye and give your thanks to Marc for joining us. Marc, we really, really appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait to have you and Heidi on as well, and because we'd love to pick her brain on some of the things that she was thinking as well. And I'm going to go back and listen to that 911 call again too, and I'm going to maybe we can have JT clean up the audio for us so we can clear out some of the background noise so we can hear it better, but we'll do that too. And we've had a couple people that said that our whole 13th juror family, we are all available to help you investigate anything that you if you need some extra eyes and ears on anything, that we're all available for you.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And stop telling me about the 911 tape I missed.
Oh, sorry. All right. Thank you so much, Marc. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you all for having me. Have a great day.
All right.
All right. You too.
Bye. Oh, I love him.
All right. So I am going to quickly go to the other stream, get that started, and then we'll portal everybody over, ideally, in the real world. Okay. In a perfect world. So perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. So let's see here. Okay. All right. So I will see everybody on the other side, and then I'll be leaving it all up to you. So see y'all in a second.
Okay. So that was very cool. I did go through my emails, and I tried to get to all of the email questions, and answer everything that we could. And I tried to go through chat, but I was also intently listening. So if I missed anything, I apologize. I did try, but I had so many questions that I wanted to ask, and I did try to get to the emails. I think it's really cool that we were able to, to get him to come on. I can't wait to see what he has to say when he comes back on with Heidi. So many, many, many thanks to Marc the Shark for coming and hanging out with us. And yes, we do have some, where'd it go? We do have some Marc and Heidi swag on the way. So I appreciate all of y'all. If you are joining in with us on the next trial that we're doing is the Melly trial, the rapper double murder trial here in Florida. That's next. So we are a little bit late on that one because we were doing our interview. So we're going to just listen to it in 1.25 speed and catch up. I have everybody set up to automatically portal over. So if y'all just hang tight, we will send you over there and then we will get started. And that gives me just a second to swap over some of my info that I have here. So I will see y'all over at the other one in just a moment. Thanks for reporting to jury duty.